last week. While we're answering those questions, we invite you to submit your questions in the comment section, and we will take time later in the stream to provide answers. For that, I'm going to be joined once again by Bruce McClary, our SVP of Communications for the NFCC. Hey, Bruce, how's it going today?
Hey, Rachel, it's going great. Hope you're doing well also.
Yeah, very good. Another beautiful day here in DC. Enjoying the fall weather.
Yeah, it's finally feeling like fall and right on cue. Yesterday was the first day of fall, so it just feels it's the perfect timing. So
that's right.
Good to be out and about. Yeah, and speaking of being out and about, I mean, this weather kind of makes you feel like, okay, now I can be outside of my house a little bit more, get out, do some things. I've found myself getting back to some of the routines that might have fallen by the wayside when the COVID outbreak started. So,
what routines?
Well, some of these are not good routines, like eating out as much as I did before the outbreak. Packing on a few extra pounds doing that. But my favorite restaurants are starting to open up capacity with outdoor seating and things like that. So I'm doing more out and about, which is great. And it makes it feel like there's a little bit of normalcy returning. Or are you kind of getting the same sense as well?
Yeah, a little bit. I think I've certainly gotten used to things a bit more and having things slowly open up and feel a bit more normal again.
Yeah, but being out and about more also means that I'm back to spending more than I was when I was sequestered in my home.
Yes.
So that's having an impact on the budget. So I think a lot of people right now are also feeling a little bit of budget pressure as things start to open up a little bit more, because they're getting back to some spending patterns that might have gone away briefly as we've been quarantined and as communities have shut down and as people have traveled less. So that's one of the things that I've been very aware of. Have you noticed that as well?
Yeah, definitely, for sure. And actually, since you mentioned personal finance, that brings us to our first question, which is about an auto loan. The viewer has an old car that's starting to pile up repair costs, $1,500 so far as of just this year. And they have some high interest loans that are just fitting their budget. Without a lot of savings for a down payment, should they go ahead and finance the purchase of a car or wait until they can pay off the high interest loans?
Yeah, this is, Rachel, this is a really common question that a lot of people have. People are trying to get the most out of the things that they have, especially during difficult times. So if you have an older car and maybe you own it free and clear, hopefully in this case, the person owns this car free and clear, and they don't have a car auto loan on top of the repair expenses. As you have these cars that you own free and clear, there's a tremendous advantage when you don't have to pay for the financing of the car, because you're paying the loan, you're paying the interest, and usually, that goes on for years and years. So there's that trade-off. Okay, how much am I spending on the maintenance of the vehicle? And on the other hand, how much would I otherwise be paying if I bought a new car and had to finance it? Now we're paying monthly, but if assuming the car would be in better shape, I'd be paying less on maintenance and fees. Really tough choice for people to make as the maintenance costs start to creep up. In this case, it was a pretty lengthy question that the person submitted. So there were a lot of details in here that we can use to offer some guidance. First of all, the loans that they owe, the high interest loans, we're talking about 13% interest on one and 23% interest on the other. It's the 23% interest loan that worries me the most. Fortunately, that is about to pay off. The viewer indicated that they might be on track to pay it off in November. And once they clear that loan out of the way, that makes a big difference in their budget, and they might actually have room for a car payment if they wanted to go out and finance the purchase of a car. So with that in mind, there's the factor of time and there's the factor of cost. So I would say this, if I were in that situation, I would look at a couple of things. First of um, all things considered, is there enough room in the budget to put aside money for savings? Savings should be a priority. If there's not, that may change the approach to what kind of car you buy, how much you finance, whether you finance, and what you decide to do regarding the maintenance of the car that you owe. You should always be prioritizing savings. It seems to me that this person may have a little bit of flexibility in their budget, not enough at the moment for a new car or a car payment, but once they pay off that high interest loan, that might free them up to make that decision. So I would say try to make, if I were in this situation, I would try to make the car last at least to November with minimal or little expense. I would prioritize paying off the 23% interest loan, and I certainly wouldn't take my eyes off the 13% interest loan either. And I would try to make sure that I had extra money going to that to clear that out of the way as well, because that's a cost factor. Then I would, when November comes around, I would do the math. I'd sit down with my budget and I would see what kind of room I could make if, in fact, I had to finance the purchase of a car versus the maintenance cost. I would go back through the maintenance records. I would look at the issues that I've already paid for. And it's also a good idea to take that car in and get a mechanic to give you a sense of what major maintenance issues may be coming up in the year ahead. Price that out so you can see, okay, I know what I've already paid this year, but what do I expect going forward? How much is this car likely to cost me next year? That is going to be what should help guide the decision as to whether you buy the car or whether you try to make more use out of your car that you own free and clear into the year ahead. The other advice that I would give here is I am not a fan of buying new cars. It's, the minute you drive it off the lot, it devalues. I just think you're overpaying when you buy a new car, always, no matter what car you get. and no matter how attractive the financing packages are, unless you have tip-top credit, which based on the interest rates this person is paying on the other loans they have, I'm making an assumption here, but I assume that they don't have the best credit right now. So they're probably not going to get those incredible 0% interest deals on auto financing for a new car. So look at a reliable used car, see if you have enough for a down payment, can pay at least a portion of the purchase price cost of the car that at least limits how much you're going to have to borrow and saves you money over time. And then you can try to get a financing deal that's affordable there. But based on those interest rates on the other loans, I'm even a little cautious about advising somebody to finance the purchase of a vehicle in this situation. But try to make the most out of it until November, prioritize the payoff of the high interest rate loan, and then look at your options for a car. But look at a reliable used car, see if you can pay most or hopefully maybe even all of the cost of the car with your savings, and then try to find affordable financing for the rest of it.
Speaking of those high interest balances, do you think it would make sense for them to move those onto a credit card with a 0% introductory rate?
Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion. And I think for a lot of people, that's where they're thinking. If they're thinking about consolidating their debt and they have decent credit, there are a lot of these introductory offers that offer 0% interest for a limited amount of time. You can consolidate your credit card balances, move them over to that one card, and then pay them off before the expiration of the 0% interest rate. And you'll have something, you'll be able to get ahead in terms of paying down your debt and managing it in a more cost-effective way. I guess the concern here, going back to what I mentioned earlier about the auto financing, I think the same rule applies here with the credit card offers. If you don't have top credit, you're not going to get that 0% interest rate offer. So then what makes sense? It's still possible you might be able to find it may not be an interest-free offer, but you may be able to find a credit card that gives you a better interest rate than 23%. And that is actually more of a possibility if you don't have the greatest credit than getting a 0% introductory offer. But consolidating at a lower interest rate can make sense. And alternatively, if you're having difficulty paying that debt, you're behind on that debt. Maybe that's why the interest rates are high. It also makes sense to reach out to a nonprofit credit counseling agency for help in managing that debt and working out a budget and trying to find a more affordable way to pay that off. So nonprofit credit counseling can be a help here as well.
Thanks, Bruce. That's some great insight for that viewer. Let's move on to our next question, which is about how to recover from defaulting on a payday loan. Actually, it's a little bit more than a payday loan. Our viewer is on disability income and wants to know how they can get back on track without jeopardizing their car title loan.
Wow, there's a lot to unpack here, and I'm really sorry about the circumstances that this viewer is facing. Not only having to deal with a disability and medical issues that seem to be ongoing, but also having to struggle with this particular type of debt, which is very unfortunate because, as we all know about payday loans, they come with a very high interest rate. And because they're issued without determining a person's ability to repay that debt affordably, these loans are known for putting people over the edge financially, leading people into a situation where they're falling further behind on their debt and struggling to get back on track. And it sounds like that's the case with this person. The other issue, I'm going to get on my soapbox here about payday loans, I'm sorry, but the other issue that really frustrates me is that in a number of states, there are still no regulations that limit the number of payday loans an individual can have out at the same time. So some states have regulations that limit that. So you can only get one payday loan at a time. You pay that off, and then you can go back for another. There are some states that have that kind of cap. So other states don't, and that's where you see people get into real trouble. I remember back when I was a credit counselor, I was working with an individual who had 6 payday loans out at the same time. They had a relative in trouble. They needed to get money to help that relative quickly. And so they didn't have any savings. They went to the payday lender and they just shopped around. They went from payday lender to payday lender to payday lender. They had 6 payday loans out from 6 different payday lenders, and they were falling behind on all of it. And there's a lot of difficulty that resulted. There were a lot of problems that resulted. The payday loans come with an incredibly high interest rate, even in states where they're regulated. In regulated states, payday loans can typically have about 36% interest is the APR on a payday loan. In states where it's unregulated, it could be 3, 4, 5, even 600% APR. Well, we don't know where this viewer lives, so I'm hoping that they live at least in a state where the interest rate is regulated. Because if the payday loans aren't regulated such that they are limited to the number they can have out at one time, at least I hope the interest rates are regulated. But so getting back to the issue of what to do. First of all, the car title loan, which is basically a payday loan with your car on the line. Your car is used as collateral and you can borrow larger amounts. The interest rates are still ridiculously high for a loan that uses your car title. It's absurd, some of the interest rates with these car title loans. But they're attractive for individuals who are struggling financially, have poor credit, and need fast access to cash when they don't have any savings or other resources. So these car title loans are, they're popping up everywhere like, weeds in a field. And they're often in neighborhoods where you have low incomes, poor credit, and they're saying, come on in, we'll help you. But the help is really hurt because they're putting you in deeper in debt, and you could even lose your car if you don't pay. So the consequences are higher with the car title loan. Keep that on track. Try to make sure you're making those payments. With the payday loans, non-payment just means that they're going to continue adding late fees. They're going to the cost is going to go up. They're going to penalize you for this. If you don't pay, your credit's, I'm assuming, already damaged because you went to a payday lender. It's not going to get any better. They're going to report this to your credit bureau. It's possible that they could sue you and try to garnish your wages if it gets to the point where you've gotten to non-payment after a while. That depends on the laws in your state. So communication is important in this situation. So I would say if you can't pay them, at least stay in touch with these payday lenders. Let them know that you are open to work out some kind of an arrangement. What you don't want to do is work out an arrangement that just flips this debt into a new payday loan that you're still not going to be able to pay and will add more fees and more cost on top of what you already owe. So the point is to try to get out of this debt without adding any more cost and any more amount to your balance. So that's the main thing. Communicate, try to work out a repayment arrangement with the payday lenders. And it might also help, even though payday loans often can't be added to a structured debt repayment program through a debt management plan, it's still beneficial to talk to a nonprofit credit counseling agency. Talk to a counselor, let them go through your budget, let them look at your financial circumstances. Then you can at least have a plan that you can use when you're communicating with the payday lender, when you're grappling with the issues, the budget issues concerning your car title loan. But it's not going to be easy to unravel all that. So it's probably a good idea to have a nonprofit credit counselor on your side as you go through some of those tough choices.
So kind of along those same lines, what advice do you have for maybe some other viewers on how to break the cycle of debt when it comes to payday and car title loans in general?
Yeah, and that's a great question, because I don't think a lot of people are aware that there are payday loan and car title loan alternatives that are affordable and just as accessible as they are from these storefronts that are offering ridiculously high interest rates and high fees. Many credit unions offer payday loan alternatives. And you all you have to do is sign up for the credit union. You can open up an account, oftentimes with $5. You can open up a savings account. You can all of a sudden you're a member of the credit union. They have programs that not only help you build savings and understand how to better manage your money, but they also have programs that can help you out in a pinch. And if you have poor credit, if you don't have a lot of borrowing history, but you need to finance something, there are many community credit unions around the country that offer these payday loan alternatives. And there are even some of these payday loan alternatives that incentivize savings. So as you make your payments, they may help boost your savings a little bit by building a deposit to your savings into the payment you're making to pay down the loan. So there are really creative ways that they can help you improve your financial position rather than make it worse through these loans. The same thing with these car title loans. There are alternatives that are available through community credit unions that are packaged a little more affordably and maybe a better way out. But the main thing is, if you're in financial trouble and you need cash, the first place you should look is at your budget. And if you need help with budgeting, you can talk to a nonprofit credit counselor. They can provide advice, they can provide guidance, they can give you tools that help you make the right decisions so that ultimately you can avoid getting deeper in debt while still taking care of your financial priorities that you're struggling with. So that's the main thing, but there's always help. So don't be afraid to reach out for help. These high interest lenders, some of them even predatory, they're not looking out for your best interest. So I would, payday loans, car title loans. It's a tough cycle to break, and you may need help to do it. So I would definitely suggest reaching out to a nonprofit credit counseling agency.
Yeah, thanks, Bruce. Well, car financing has been a running theme in our questions so far. So let's move on and devote some time to another big ticket item, the purchase of a home. One of our viewers would like to know if there are any advantages of being a first-time home buyer.
I love these kinds of questions. This is great. home ownership is a good goal. It's a good goal to have. It helps you with asset building. As you build equity in the home, you pay down the loan. You increase the amount of ownership you have in that property. That property over time is very likely to increase in value, as we've seen historically. And so you're doing yourself a tremendous favor building a strong financial foundation by moving towards home ownership if you're a renter. There are so many examples of why it's a good idea to strive to be a homeowner, to move out of renting. There's a case for renting too. Some people like renting, and that's fine, and they can make it make sense. But the asset building aspect of homeownership is probably one of the strongest cases for homeownership, because a lot of people who rent don't do the other things they need to do to make the same kind of progress building assets through investments in that case, that homeowners can do easily just by paying down their mortgage. So if from the viewer, at least to the viewer, I mean, definitely congratulations on your goal of home ownership. And I certainly encourage pursuing that goal and looking into the programs that can help you make that first step. So first-time home buyer incentives are plentiful. There are numerous programs available in states and communities that provide guidance and even cash incentives for first-time home buyers to help reduce the cost of home ownership, at least and lowering the initial barriers that people may have in moving from renting to home ownership. So there are down payment assistance programs. That's probably one of the most popular, widely known advantages of being a first-time home buyer. And there are down payment assistance programs that could be specific to the community where you live, the city, the state. So all of that is worth looking into. There is the guidance that you can receive from HUD-approved housing counselors, and those are available through nonprofit credit counseling agencies. In fact, if you go to nfcc.org and you connect with an NFCC member agency that offers housing counseling, you can talk to a HUD-approved, HUD-certified housing counselor. And what you learn by going through these special programs for first-time home buyers will help you make the best decisions for yourself and your family, and end up being in a better position financially when you begin your journey of home ownership. It'll help you understand which mortgages may be best for you, what kind of home is most affordable for you. It helps you learn about even things like the home inspection and your rights as a borrower, what the period of rescission is on your mortgage loan and what that means. So all of these details that you'll learn by going through these special first-time home buyer programs, that's also an incentive. It makes you better informed, so it makes you more confident in your choices that you make as a prospective home buyer. And then the down payment assistance programs, I mean, that's just gravy. If you can get money to offset the cost of purchasing a home, that just makes it easier to make that transition from renting to home ownership without putting you in a financial bind as you go through that process. So I would, again, encourage anybody in this situation, connect with a housing counselor, go to nfcc.org and look for housing counseling, and you can ask an NFCC member agency about first-time homebuyer programs that can help people understand more specifically which of these incentives apply to their circumstances and learn more about the home buying process. But that's one of my favorite questions to answer. I love that. Good news.
Yeah, I think that our housing counselors and those first-time homebuyer programs are excellent and very trustworthy resources for people who have an interest in buying a home, for sure. In terms of kind of general advice for those wishing to purchase a home, are there any sort of red flags or things that you would advise people to watch out for as they're going through the process?
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to be careful where you get advice and what advice you act on. And I think that's really important especially important when you're going through the home buying process. A house is most likely the most expensive thing you will ever buy in your life. It is a big ticket item if there ever was one for most people. And because there are a lot of complexities, because this is going to have a significant impact on your budget for years, decades even, it's important that you make the right choice. So I always tell people, and this is general advice, is really general, but when you're out with the realtor, when you're shopping around for financing, consider the advice you're getting from those individuals and understand that they are incentivized monetarily by the choice you make. So you should always keep that in mind when a realtor is giving you advice. If they tell you what they think, how much house they think you can afford, just understand that you are the final say on that matter. You know best what you can afford and what you can't afford, and you can get guidance from someone who is not directly incentivized by your choice, and that would be a nonprofit housing counselor. But if you're getting advice from somebody who's incentivized by your final decision, it's not always the case, but you may want to at least entertain the thought that might be influencing the advice that they're giving you. Not every case is gonna mean that's happening, but at least you should just take the advice with a grain of salt, I would say. But always go back to someone always go back to somebody who's going to be able to offer you when you close a loan or sign a contract.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to keep in mind who's trying to sell you something and what are their incentives. I'm not seeing any questions submitted right now.
Okay.
So I think we can probably wrap up for today. I just wanted to thank everyone for joining today, and we hope that the Financial Facts Chat has helped you guys make some wise financial decisions and given you some useful information. If you're watching this after the live stream, don't forget to like, comment, and share. And thank you once again, Bruce, and we'll see you again soon.